This is what we're making. Two different recipes. Really, really good beef jerky here. I've got a lot of beef here. More than I can make into jerky on the very first go round. So I'm going to be making a lot of jerky this week. I've got to get this video started today, however it will not end today. So you're going to see a multi-day process here. Making beef jerky, and I'm doing it with a food dehydrator, and so it's a machine designed for this. This can be done in the oven, and I'll show you a few tips that'll kind of guide you in that direction also. The recipe for the marinade, that's really what this is about. There is a little bit of different choices in beef, and that'll be up to you. Now I'm going to use a brisket for mine, but you can use a round, you can use chuck, you can use sirloin, whatever suits you. Pick a cut of beef that you like, start with it, and move on from there. But there's some tricks about how you cut the beef that matters, and also some tricks about how you marinate it that really matters. So I'm going to give you a great recipe, a few really cool tips. This is fun, it tastes really, really good, and it's going to make the best beef jerky you've ever had. So we're going to slow dry the beef and do it the right way with a marinade that's really, really good. So I'll tell you what, let me show you what I have here. We'll get on with this. Come on. So the ingredients I have for this today, I'm going to use a brisket. You use whatever cut you want. This I'm going to be making a lot of beef jerky with, and I'll probably be doing multiple recipes for myself. This, I'm going to be starting with my favorite recipe, which is a real fruity complex that is really, really nice in its flavors. A lot of people, before I start this, a lot of people like to combine dark sauces like soy sauce and Worcestershire. I don't like that combination flavor. I think that it really is hard on the palate. It's kind of confusing in the flavors. So I separate the two. If I'm doing a recipe that has Worcestershire sauce, then I will not use soy. And if I'm doing a recipe with soy sauce, I won't use Worcestershire. And it's about limiting the number of ingredients for a more pleasing palate, pleasing experience. All right, so for this one, we have pineapple juice, ginger, black pepper, soy sauce, and lime juice. And this is going to make a fantastic marinade. Does not take long to marinate, especially if you cut the meat the right way. We'll look at that. Before I get on with my meat, mixing it up, I want to talk about getting the marinade together. It's as simple as get your juices and get your soy sauce and the ginger in a bowl. You're going to need to whisk it together, mostly to get the ginger worked into it. All right, and that's all there is to it. As far as salt, I would caution against using much, if any, salt on this because you've got a lot of salt in that soy sauce, all right? So it's already there to an extent. And frankly, beef jerky really doesn't thrive well on salt. It just doesn't need to be salty. It needs just to be made right and dried right. All right, so the real trick here, let's get this mixed into a bowl that's either plastic, glass, or ceramic. It'll prevent any reaction of the acids with metals, okay? So this is a quick go through about the grain of meat and how to cut it when it comes to beef jerky. A lot of people just go at it and go slicing it and they're done with it. All right, so what I'm going to recommend that you do here is, if you'll notice, the grain on this meat runs right through here. It runs this direction right here. See these strands? Like this. Right, like that, okay? That is the grain of the meat, okay? So the grain's running in this direction. Now, if I cut this way, then I'm going to have very stringy, difficult to bite or chew through beef jerky. However, if I cut from this corner this way, making cross cuts directly across this grain, it shortens the grain of the meat in my beef jerky to very, very, very short pieces, only 1/4 of an inch long if I'm cutting pieces 1/4 of an inch thick. That's the other thing. Cut your meat 1/4 of an inch thick. All right. If you cut it really thin, then you're going to end up with, well, your beef jerky will dry quickly, but the quality and texture and desirability is not quite the same as what you find in the packages that you're used to. What we're going to make today will be very similar to that. So cut your grain crosswise. If you're going to use a brisket, remember there's two muscles. There's one where the point is that runs underneath the flat, which is this part here. Separate those two, remove all of the fat that you can get off of there, then cut your meat for your beef jerky. That's all there is to it. Once you get finished trimming out a brisket completely, that's the flat right there, completely trimmed off, all right, both sides. So that is what a beef brisket flat looks like, no fat on it. And here's the point. Remember, we took care of that. This was the front of it. That's our point. So we have our meat all together right there, and that's how much meat that your average brisket is going to yield. In a little bit, we're going to weigh this out and we have exact amounts. So I have a lot of meat already sliced. I'm cutting simple 1/4 inch thick slices, that's all there is. And remember, grain's running this way, so I'm cutting across it just like this, getting those easier to bite through pieces of jerky. Who wants to wrestle with jerky to eat it, right? Now folks, I'm ready to put my marinade and my meat together. I can do this a couple of different ways. I can put all the meat in the bowl and just marinate it that way. I can put this meat into some plastic bags, Ziploc bags, and pour the marinade into those and marinate it that way. I think that's real practical, and it seems to be a clean way of doing it, but it's your choice, okay? Just make sure you don't marinate in any metal bowls, okay? So I have it in these plastic bags. They're in the bowl. I'm going to put them in the fridge, give them a couple of hours. We start dehydrating after that. If you're going to dehydrate in an oven, it's going to be 160 to 170 degrees. If you're going to use a dehydrator, it's going to be the same temperature. If you have an oven that's convection, then you're in luck, because that's the best way to go. And if you do that, use pan racks on a baking sheet, and it'll lift it up and it'll do a beautiful job. Here we are. My meat has marinated for a couple of hours now. That's more than enough, all right? And I have set up a little station here to line my drying trays. Now I'm using a food dehydrator, and the trays on this, of course, are designed to allow air to move through them. You want to put your meat on there so that the meat is not touching. That way air gets around all the way, air gets all the way around each of the pieces. When you're doing this, you might want to put up some paper towels or something that can get wet with the marinade, because it's going to be a little bit messy. That's the reason I set it up and do it this way. So go ahead and line these out. Once you get them all lined, then we're going to hit it with pepper before we start drying it. I have lined out all of my trays here with my beef jerky, and it pretty much filled the whole thing, a little less on the top. Go ahead and hit it with your black pepper. Now, if you want cracked black pepper, use a mortar, good grief, I'm having a hard time talking. A mortar and pestle, and you'll find that that works really well for breaking them down. Or if you have this type of a grinder that uses a crushing device rather than grinding, it'll make a good large cracked grain also. And just go ahead and hit all of your jerky with a light coating of that black pepper. This is really the best way of doing it if you like pepper on there. So as you've seen, there's been a lot of beef used in this. So I started actually with a brisket here that was 10.5 pounds, and of course it took out a lot of fat, so it changed that a lot. And to that, for my marinade recipe, I used 2 cups of pineapple. That's just a simple pineapple juice, nothing more. 1/2 of a cup of lime juice, 1/2 of a cup of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of ginger, and enough black pepper to cover it evenly to your taste. Remember, if you like a lot of black pepper, you get to put on a lot. And if you like it light, you get to keep it light. There it is. That is your recipe. Let's take a look at this beef jerky. I'm looking forward to tasting it. Well, right there, beef jerky. That's the first batch. However, it needs to be said, this is a 2-recipe deal. Okay, so you've gotten 1 recipe. I'm about to start the second one back here. This one's going to be a little more robust. The first one gives a light flavor, gentle, light, fruity, without being overwhelming, and very beefy. And that's one thing it really does, is it really enhances the flavor of the beef itself, lets it stand out. Now this lost about 2/3 of its total weight upon being dried, so there's a lot of weight change that's going on here. I started with almost 4 pounds and I've got 1.5 pounds left, so there's a big change, but it is a very good value when you figure the overall cost of beef jerky and also what you can get in the quality of your homemade beef jerky. I've already tasted this. It pulls apart wonderful. It's very gentle and tender, and we're going to take a look at that at the end of this video. I wanted you to take a look at this and know what was going on. Know I'm in the background working on my math and getting all of this right. About to start this next one, so let's take a look at these ingredients. Come on. The ingredients that we're going to be using for this is going to be, again, our beef. And in the marinade, I'm using white Zinfandel, some soy sauce, sugar. I've got some apple cider vinegar, liquid smoke, paprika, and some garlic powder. This is a really great recipe. Let's get right into it now. I've sliced my meat, mixed all of my ingredients. 2 ways we can do this. We can put this and this into plastic bags and let it marinate that way. Or I can put all of this right down into this and let it marinate in here. Either way, it's going to get marinated, okay? But you want to turn it occasionally to get thorough marinating. 2 to 3 hours in this, okay? The marinating is finished. All I need to do is lay my meat flat on my dehydrating trays and then get it started up, okay? That's all there is to it. Would remind you, make sure that your meat is separated on the edges, that it's not touching, and get it spread out good and even. Lay all the pieces flat, okay? So no folded pieces or anything like that. Give it time once it's all together, because remember, it takes hours to make beef jerky. I'm about ready to get my power head on this. If you've never seen these things work before, it's simple as this. It pulls air up through the middle and blows it down through a groove right here on the edge of the tray. And when it's doing that, in fact, you can see right here, this right here, these vents are what blow down. This is what pulls in. And then it also exchanges air through these vents here, as well as through outblowing vents on the bottom, where it blows out the moist air that it's created. So it's constantly recycling fresh air into it and heating it and then circulating it and then blowing it back out. And that's how this thing works. And it works really well. So keep your high temperature around 160 degrees and just let it run until it's good and firm and dry. For this batch of beef jerky, I used a little over 3 pounds of beef, and I was using a beef brisket. I'm using the point meat here. And then to that, for my marinade, I used 1.5 cups of white Zinfandel wine, 1/2 of a cup of soy sauce, 1/2 of a cup of sugar, 1/4 of a cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/4 of a cup of liquid smoke. For this one, I used mesquite. 1 tablespoon of paprika and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. On the paprika, if you want it to be a little more robust, you can go to 2 tablespoons. Good recipe. I've just finished weighing all of the beef jerky that we've made. It's 3 pounds and 0.2 ounces, so barely over 3 pounds. And the total amount that we paid per pound was $9.64 a pound. When we started out with a 10 pounds worth of beef, had to trim it, ended up with 6.922 pounds of beef that we then processed and ended up with just barely over 3 pounds total product when we started the process of drying with almost 7 pounds. So folks, there's a lot of change that goes on there, and of course with each change up goes that price. And that price does not include the marinade, time, electricity, or anything. That is just the cost of the beef itself. There's a breakdown on cost for beef jerky. Been sitting here comparing the two recipes. The second one, that's good. That's really sweet, very fruity. Reminds me of teriyaki a lot. It wasn't a teriyaki sauce, but many of the flavors were there for teriyaki, okay, and very similar. And it comes out very good and sweet. This is a very good one. The smokiness is not overwhelming on it. Okay, so it's more of a light, very pleasant, enjoyable marinade. And the first one is even lighter to the beef, and it allows a stronger, beefier flavor to come through. Very good. Not too much pepper on it. It came out just right. Folks, there you've seen it. We've taken 10.5 pounds of beef, trimmed it down to just a hair under 7 pounds, dehydrated it to 3 pounds, and now we got 3 pounds of some really good beef jerky. All right, there you have it. Beef jerky, thank you for watching this. Enjoy these recipes, and please look in that description box. That's where I'm going to have my links for my website, S.A.Trotter.com, as well as Texas Cooking Today here on YouTube. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, and enjoy that beef jerky. Bye-bye. I wanted to speak to you for just a moment about my recipes. Now, I put out my recipes, okay? They're on my website. Now, I don't put out your average everyday recipe. You know, I had somebody comment to me recently. He said, why would I do that when they're available everywhere for free? There's a little difference. Those that are for free, and I've printed them out, you have too, little tiny thing in the corner of the piece of paper that's covered with ads most of the time, and then it's not very descriptive. Not mine. Mine are worth having. Okay, so when you get one of mine, it's designed to be printed in such a way that it can be put into like a 3-ring binder. Look at this. Look at the quality on it. Look at how clear this is. The imagery is beautiful. So they can be printed, and this is the way I've designed mine, is so they can be printed back to back. And then you end up with, you know, a complete recipe that works in a book. And it comes out absolutely beautiful. Pictures that depict everything that you need to do in the recipe. Now, not all of them are exactly that way, but a lot of them are, and I'm getting more and more done this way. And I'm putting a hard push towards good quality recipes that give better instructions than everybody else's. And that's the reason I do them this way. These are designed to have holes punched in them. Let me pull this up and do this with it. Look, 3-ring binder, boom, punch holes in it, you have it right there. Everything's all available for you, okay? So, pardon me, I didn't mean to hit the mic. Anyway, really cool idea. Great way to do your recipes. Instead of having to buy a book of 50 recipes to get 10, you just pay for the 10 recipes, save a whole lot of money, and you got a better idea for how to keep your recipes. Thanks for watching. Please enjoy what I provide. Check out Texas Cooking Today. There's a lot, I mean a lot of recipes there. And if you would, take a look in the description box down underneath me here, and you'll find the links to my website, to Texas Cooking Today, to the stuff that I do, and how to keep up with me and to find out a little bit more. Thank you very much. You have a good day.